welcome. I wasn't quite sure how to begin. This isn't one of those things you get to really practice for. My name's Chris. I'm Doug's son, and I really appreciate all of you being here. I didn't get a chance to greet everybody as you were coming in, but it's comforting to have so many familiar faces and friends and people that really cared about my dad. You know, many people in this room have experienced this same exact thing, and all the rest of us will at some point. And it's customary to ask somebody how they're doing, and up until this time, I haven't necessarily felt super emotional. I haven't felt terribly sad. I've had moments, and they just tend to surprise me. And so I was feeling really confident and really sort of cool and collected until I got up here. So I appreciate all of your support. I'm going to go ahead and begin by reading my dad's obituary. Melvin Douglas Nordyke, 68, of Sun City, Arizona, passed away peacefully on April 24th, 2024, surrounded by his family. That was special. He is remembered with love and cherished moments. Born on June 18, 1955 in Corvallis, Oregon, Melvin, fondly known as Doug, dedicated his life to education. He graduated from CHS in 1973 and went on to earn his bachelor's degree from Northwest Nazarene University in 1977 and his master's degree in elementary education from Oregon State University in 1983. Doug's passion for teaching touched countless lives during his 32-year career. Primarily at Lincoln and Mountain View Elementary, his commitment to his students earned him accolades, including the Educator Excellence Award in 1994 and the 509J Teacher of the Year Award in 2009. He will be remembered for his innovative teaching methods, incorporating music into his classes, and creating lasting memories. In 1997, a group of students planted a sweet gum tree by the entrance at Life Community Church to commemorate all the bubble gum blowing contests. That's a mouthful. During their 5 years with Mr. Nordyke. Doug also received the Substitute Teacher of the Year Award for 2018 and 19. In 1975, Doug married Gloria Larrabee, sharing nearly 49 years of love and devotion. He was a loving husband, always surprising Gloria with flowers and surprises and gifts. Together, they renewed their vows in December of 2023 in St. Martin. That was awesome. Doug was a devoted... He was a devoted father to Chris and Lindsay, supporting them wholeheartedly. He cherished family time, whether on camping trips, shopping dates, TCBY, frozen yogurt dates, or listening to his grandmother's stories while tending to her flowers out in Nashville. Beyond his roles as father and educator, Doug was a talented musician, mastering the piano, saxophone, recorder, and melodica. That was funny. He found solace in music and shared his gift at weddings, funerals, and many, 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 many church services. Right here, right on that piano. Doug is survived by his loving family, his wife, Gloria, children, myself, Kara, Lindsay, and her husband, Kevin. Grandchildren, Lily, Jack, Simon, and Jason. His mother, Beverly McIntyre, and brothers, Brian, his wife, Beverly, and Scott, his wife, Lori, and their families. Thank you again for being here.
it is for me to be here today, and our heartfelt condolences to you, Gloria, Lindsay, Chris, to you, Beverly, Scott, Brian. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today. It means a lot to the family as you show your concern and compassion to them. A little bit of my experience here was back in 1985 is when I first arrived as youth and music minister, and I served here for 7 years until the youth were too much for me, and I passed the baton off to Pastor Mike, who did a very, very good job with them. But those are fond years that we had here, Doris, my wife, and I. My name is Mark Bodenstaub, by the way, and we survived the transition from Greeley Avenue all the way over to here, and I got here a couple hours early today and got to walk around, and I even saw my fingerprints in a few of the places, like all the rose-colored laminate that you see in the bathrooms and in the kitchen. I did that. A lot of wonderful memories here. I've known Doug for nearly 40 years. He was a couple years ahead of me in college at Northwest Nazarene University, but I didn't know him well then because he was married to Gloria off campus. But I got to know him very well following those years as his music minister. Doug was my right arm on that piano right there, and what a talented young man he was. I was often just in awe of what he could do with that instrument. And I was so thankful to have a piano player like Doug on board. Some of the fondest memories I have were listening to Doug playing the offertories as he would go through a medley of old hymns and old gospel songs, and his hands just floated over those keys. One time, we even got to go to Hawaii on a trip with Gloria and Doug, and I had a special time. There's a lot of you that have memories as well, and if you did not get a chance to pick up one of the memory cards, we would encourage you following this. I think the cards will be out there. They'll also be in the reception area to jot down a memory. The family would love to hear from you as well. And now, just a verse that I wanted to share with the family. It comes from 2 Corinthians. Paul is writing to his second letter to the church in Corinth there, and he gives us some encouragement that I think we can use today. May the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ be blessed. He is the compassionate Father and God of all comfort. He's the one who comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort other people with the same comfort that he gave us. Before Pastor Mike comes, I'd like us to sing a couple of Doug's favorite songs. So if you would join me in singing.
Be still, my soul, the Lord is on thy leads to a joyful end. Be still, my soul, when dearest friends depart, and all is dark, and in the vale of tears, then shalt thou better know his love, his heart, who comes to soothe thy sorrow and thy fears. Be still, my soul, thy Jesus can repay from his own fullness all he takes away. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrims' feet who stern impassioned stress, through thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness. America, America, God mend thine every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster hues, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good from brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Well, as Mark mentioned, I'm Mike O'Neill. I arrived here, I think it was about 1988, and served as youth pastor here until 1995, and the last year served as interim pastor in the transition. My goodness, so many of you held such an important place in our hearts and in our lives. We arrived here. I'd been a youth pastor for just a few years before we got here, so I had a lot to learn, but didn't think I did. And Doug and Gloria were the kind of youth ministry parents that every youth pastor needs. They supported me. My goodness, they had to have been so patient with me. Marigans, too, part of that crew. Chris was in our youth group. And in fact, I mentioned earlier, on our last Sunday here, Chris sang for us in that service. So we have loved this family and are so grateful for you, and so many of you. As Mark said, I actually helped with some of that laminate, mostly helped Mark from losing his cool a few times as he was trying to get it all to work with all the fumes. I can't tell you how many layers of plaster we put on these walls. My folks lived in Salem at the time, and so my dad came down and he and I would hang sheetrock. So huge amounts of sheetrock have my dad and I having put it there. We are just so grateful for those incredibly formative ministry years to have been here and to be with you, especially at this time. This is a time when the family has invited a few folks to come and to share some of their memories. And after they do, you will be invited to do so as well. So you'll have a few moments to give some thought to that and gather your thoughts if that's something you'd like to do. When these four are finished, you'll be invited to come up and come to the podium and share if you'd like. And I know that can be a bit overwhelming, so that'll give you some time to get your courage up. If you'd rather not, as Mark mentioned, there are these cards that you can write your thoughts on. And can I just add to Mark's comments, even if you share up here personally, there is so much happening here for this family that they will likely not remember some of what you've said. And so whether you share or not, if you could write some things down and give those to the family, that is an incredible gift for them that they can come back to and read over and over and over again. So I would like to also encourage you to consider that. The first one to come and share is a longtime, very close friend of Doug and Gloria's, and that's Mike Merrigan.
Thank you, Mike. Last time I didn't need reading glasses when I was doing this, but I wanted to read to you from the Bible, Proverbs 18:24, and I'd like you to think about Doug. And it says, "One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother." Doug Nordyke was one of those friends who sticks closer than a brother. My wife, Karen, and I met Doug and Gloria in the spring of 1997. Karen and I had been married about 6 months. Doug and Gloria Doug had just graduated, and they came back from Nampa, Idaho, NNC, and we met them. And gosh, that was the beginning of an amazing 47-year friendship. We have enjoyed over the years countless cups of coffee and meals together, and I mean countless. We've taken numerous vacations together where we camped, we hiked, we cruised, we went snorkeling, sailed, took helicopter tours together, hot tubbed and swam together. We went to beaver games, we walked the Oregon coast, we went wine tasting. We often played pinochle, Farco, dominoes, where it seems like Karen and Gloria always seem to win. But we tried. Somebody said cheated. No, I think they were just smarter. We celebrated New Year's Eve on so many occasions and watched football the next day on New Year's Day and barbecued steaks. And then even in February of this year, we did one of Doug's bucket list events. We took the Grand Canyon Railroad from Williams, Arizona to the Grand Canyon. And that was special. I wanted to share just a couple of humorous stories. I don't know, you may not find them so humorous, I thought they were funny. But to celebrate our 20th anniversary, we were both married approximately the same time. Doug and Gloria have a little more experience than us, but not by much. We went on a cruise into the Caribbean, and I remember on our first dinner, the waiter came out, and one of the things that was offered was snails. And Doug expressed how disgusted that sounded. And he kind of likened it to the Willamette Valley slugs. And I talked to him and said, you know, you really ought to try this. It's not too bad. I used to work at Sun River, and I had a chance, and they're pretty good. So he tried them, and then, of course, he loved them. And every night for the rest of the cruise, he ordered 2 orders as appetizers. And it was, he didn't want to share them with Gloria, I think, but he had that. And then on our 40th anniversary, we went on another cruise, but this time it was a land-sea cruise to Alaska. And I had worked up there a fair amount, and we went up early before our cruise would start, or the land tour. And one of the days we went to Mount Alyeska in Girdwood, Alaska. Some of you may have been there. And we took the tram up to the top of the resort. And while we were there looking around, we saw a black bear, and that was so cool. And I turned around to talk to Doug about it, and he was gone. And he literally had his camera and was chasing the black bear, excuse me. There were a couple other people doing the same, and there's people all over yelling, saying, you know, don't do that, stay back, stay away from the bear, get back. But he got his picture. And persistent, but maybe not the smartest move. But anyway, he got his picture of the black bear, and I thought that was fun. We've talked about that many times. We certainly also enjoyed worshiping God together, where we loved to hear Doug playing the piano and Gloria singing praises to our Savior, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Doug and I spent countless hours sharing our experiences of being husbands and fathers, raising our children, our sibling relationships, caring for aging parents, and interacting with our grown children and grandchildren, our careers, retirement eventually, and our spiritual lives. And Doug was a great listener and encourager to me, and I'm so thankful. He was thoughtful, kind, generous, caring, helpful, fun, and he had a great sense of humor. He was a man of integrity and a blessing to so many. Doug loved Gloria. He loved his family, Chris, Lindsay, Kara, Kevin, Lily, Jack, Simon, and Jason. And he was always bragging about how smart and talented his grandkids are. And I certainly agree with him, but he sure enjoyed talking about them. And I would tell you, if you have one or even a few friends like Doug Nordyke, you have been blessed. Karen and I have been very blessed to journey with Doug and Gloria. And Doug, I'm looking forward to sharing a meal with you and listening to you play the piano in heaven. I love you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. You mentioned coffee. When we left town, you two and Doug and Gloria took us out and gave us a gift, including a couple of ceramic blue mugs from the Beanery. Is that place even still here? No? And those mugs, every week I have coffee out of one of those mugs. They're still holding strong, and it's another opportunity to remember you guys and appreciate you and love you. Anna Marie Gosser was a fellow teacher, and she is coming now to share.
So some lives connect for a short season, and some we have the honor and the privilege of intertwining with for a long time. And Doug was that person for me. An unlikely pair, you might say. A young first grade teacher in her first year of teaching for Corvallis, and a veteran fifth grade teacher on the opposite end of a very long building. And yet, a friendship truly built as a gift for both of us emerged. I have to tell this little story as it captures the essence of this great man. The first time I came into Doug's classroom was the winter of 1999. The principal at Mountain View was looking for a long-term sub and was giving me a tour. We walked into Doug's classroom, and all I saw were refrigerator and stove boxes everywhere in the room. Each one was decorated as a building in a city, and there was not a student to be seen. As we walked through the streets, I found kids tucked away with desks working inside these boxes independently, every one of them on a variety of different projects and topics. I walked out with my mind blown. 1, where was the teacher? 2, how did one teach when they couldn't see kids? That one snapshot went on to define Doug. He was the most creative teacher that I have ever worked with in my 30 years in education. He found real-life activities to hook kids' interest and taught them through integrated projects how to do math and reading and writing. I often told other people, Doug and I both know where we're going with kids. My path is just more linear and his is a little more circuitous. Doug brought joy and humor and music to all he did. Sometimes his famous song, Bubblegum, still pops into my head at the strangest times. Bubblegum, bubblegum, lots of fun with your bubblegum. And then he did the untold no in teaching, and he gave every kid bubblegum. He had a piano in his classroom, and songs would erupt on a daily basis from the space. He could have a large group of kids eating out of his hand in a moment. He asked one day if I could give him a hand with a play, and little did I know that I was to become his wingman for many seasons of Lewis and Clark adventures. One of the most hilarious pranks that I ever saw him pull on kids was when he told them that he was going to be out absent one day, and a substitute teacher was coming, Viola Swamp. He dressed up as a lady, complete with heels, and wore an ugly mask over his face and did not talk to the students all day long. It completely unnerved them and every other staff member that had no idea who it was. If you have not read the book, Miss Nelson is Missing, you should. It was one of his favorites. Doug saw people. He was intuitive, perceptive, and could work with any family or student. He taught me how to see an individual child and determine what they needed to be successful. He also taught me how to be a vicious believer that all kids could learn, whether they were hanging off their chair all day long, some avoider under a table, a strong-willed kid looking him in the eye, or that kid that just couldn't fit the pieces together. Doug accepted every challenge in the classroom and found a way to make kids believe in themselves. After he stepped out of the classroom, he came back as a substitute teacher. Not Viola, I'm just saying. He was the teacher that everyone wanted. No subplans were needed. No class was too rowdy. There was no grade level he couldn't handle. And there was no heart that he couldn't win. Doug was a teacher to all. If you wanted to learn, he would share his story, his craft, his ideas with you. He supported student teachers and new teachers. Doug didn't pull any punches. He told it like it was. He was honest with kids, his administrators, and his colleagues. Doug was a mirror in my life, often helping me to reflect on what was working, both as a teacher, but also as an administrator. He teased me about my love of wearing black and white and told me I needed to spice it up a bit. To this day, when I put on a splash of color, I laugh and I think of Doug. That man loved his fashion. And one of his secret joys was shopping for his grandkids when they were little and buying them clothes. It was how he showed you guys his love. Doug lived out his gifts, the ones that God had given him. He truly was the hands and feet of Jesus in the garden that God called him to serve in. He was adventurous, trying new forms of teaching, taking kids on crazy overnight adventures, and albeit, he invited kids over to his house for parties. He cultivated musical gifts in others, teaching hundreds of kids to play the piano, including my own son. His adventurous side always caught me a little off guard, as he was very spontaneous and a complete opposite to my hardcore planner. One day, he came down to my classroom giddy, and he said, "Meet me in my classroom at the end of the day." When I arrived, he said, "Come on." And he opened the door to the outside where he had a cool new, not dad car. He said, "You gotta get in it." He put down the top, and we roared out of the Mountain View parking lot. It wasn't just teaching that I learned from Doug. Doug showed me about love and commitment in family. I watched him raise his kids through their late high school and college days. I saw grit when things were hard and how to love unconditionally, but stand firm in your family values and your faith in God as a parent. He was truly a generous man with the gift of hospitality. He would host parties and get-togethers with our staff. They were always planned with love, and he fussed over every detail. He used what God had given him to bless others. Doug and I met for coffee often until he moved to Arizona, and then we still connected by phone and when he came to town. Over those coffee chats, he shared his journey and grief with his dad through Parkinson's. And when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with the same disease, he walked for 10 years next to me, providing advice and an understanding ear. I walked through the weddings of his kids and the welcoming of his precious grandchildren. We prayed through hard, and we celebrated through good. What never wavered in all those years that I knew Doug was his love of Jesus and his love for his family. Jesus was the satisfaction for every deep longing in his heart. Jesus was his bread of life, where he came to be sustained when he was anxious, exhausted, and confused. He looked to the light of Jesus through his word, the Bible, to bring him clarity and guidance. He saw God as his provider, protecting and caring for his family. Doug saw Jesus as his resurrection and his life, and that because of that, he could be certain and secure no matter what he encountered. Although just a man, because Doug trusted Jesus, the story of his life brought honor and integrity. He was a glorious man, made in the image of his Creator, who loved well and was faithful to Jesus all the days of his life. And for all those reasons, my life has forever been changed because of a dear friend that I call Doug.
Thank you so much. Next is Christopher Johnson, a student of Doug's.
Good afternoon. I'll get this up here. I'm Chris Johnson, and I have been fortunate and blessed to know the Nordykes for the last 33 years. I was one of Mr. Nordyke's students, correct me if I'm wrong with the numbers here, but from 1992 to 1996. And I just wanted to say thank you to Gloria, Chris, and Lindsay for allowing me to be here today to share my feelings. An incredible reflection of the love that everyone has for Mr. Nordyke. And I won't call him by his first name. It'll be calling like my mom, my dad by their first name, so he'll always be Mr. Nordyke to me. But again, thank you all. And so I was able to write Mr. Nordyke a letter, as I stumble through here, of my feelings, and they asked me to share it with you today. And I figure a little bit of context is appropriate because you've heard a couple references to 1st through 5th, because we had a really unique, and that word is overused, but not in this context, in that I entered Mountain View Elementary in 1st and 2nd grade. I'm sure some of my comrades are here today. And once we got to 2nd grade, we kind of just more or less Forrest Gumped it in a sense of, well, we made it this far, why don't we just keep on going? And then we went from 2nd to 3rd grade, and the class went from 1st, 2nd, 3rd to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way to 5th, right? And it was just because such an incredible community and people that we kept it going all the way. So what an incredible and unique experience. So as I read this, if I don't look up, that's my keeping myself being able to get through it. So again, thank you. And it's titled, To the Greatest Showman. Dear Mr. Nordyke, I want to start with the end. You are simply the best. One of the world's best guides, people, teachers, and role models that I've had the opportunity to be around and share life with. Meeting you is one of my earliest memories that is clear as crystal entering the 1st grade. Not only was my teacher a man, but a man with a mustache. Oh my God. Already intimidated enough to share a room with 2nd graders, I had the added stress of a mustached man leading the way. Little did I realize the environment I was entering was one that would shape who I became as a student, a professional, a friend, and now a father. I find myself with a big smile on my face whenever the subject around, what were your teachers like growing up? When my answer is simple. He was amazing. I love him to this day. The look of confusion on their faces makes me happy. It's kind of a simple reminder, a cozy hug almost, that no one got the experience and teacher that I did. Looking back, it almost doesn't seem real. Everything I got to experience seems like it came from a movie. Small things like multiplication races. My favorite was 13 times 13. 169, yes, still got it. Bubblegum blowing contests and art projects. Big trips such as Canada, the coast, the forts. All the trips and experience highlighted by the special moments like rides in the convertible to ice cream, trips to your house, BC and the recitals. You made life's experiences and the challenges we would face approachable, to hold yourself to a high standard and believe in yourself. The way you approached our development truly was a performance. You were the showman that made it all happen. You made it special. You made the impact last forever. I hope you know that. I've always wanted to make you proud. At every checkpoint in my life, I look forward to thinking about how you felt and what you would say. Having you and Gloria at the wedding was a highlight for me, and I'm eternally grateful to have that memory. Pardon language. I'm pissed off that you're not well. I'm angry you have to go through this. It's not fair. I'll never understand, but I will not let that overwhelm what's most important. The special person and love we have, and how lucky I am to have you in my life. You've made my life special, and I don't want to minimize the impact you've made on me to just words, but I'll do my best to summarize. You are a guiding force that very few are privileged to experience. The passion and ferocity of love you put toward your craft of helping all people is vast and generational. You've always been a father figure to myself, and I'm eternally grateful that the good Lord put you in my life. My daughter will forever know who you are and the impact you made on me. I will never forget it. There could be hundreds of more pages, thousands of more stories, but I will say goodbye with thank you for everything. I think of you often. You are simply the best. I love you so very much, and I cherish you more than words can express. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Chris. My daughter will forever know who you are. What a legacy, right? Finally is Doug's granddaughter, Lily Nordyke.
All right. This is a letter that I wrote my grandpa 3 weeks before he passed away. Dear Grandpa, hey, this is a letter I never thought I would find myself writing, at least not this soon. I don't understand how all of this could happen so quickly and suddenly. I still remember going to the pool with you at Palm Springs and the smell of your sunscreen when I was a kid. Football game days and eating snacks in front of the TV, taking rides in the golf cart, and eventually when you taught me to drive it. Jack and I sitting on the floor in the living room, counting out your change jar emphatically, because we knew you would give us a crazy amount of quarters if we got the total right. I've gone back and forth deciding when or if I should send this letter and what the right timing is, but I don't think there's really a good time for any of this. None of it feels real. I remember when I was a young kid, probably like 8 or 9, and you and Grandma took me to this fancy dinner at the LaSalle Stewart Center, and after the fancy dinner, there was a piano concert in the auditorium. At one point, I looked over at Grandma, and she had tears in her eyes. Looking back, I didn't understand how music could make someone feel such deep emotion, and I wrote it off as her being overly emotional. Over the years, I've started to understand. A lot of my memories with you and Grandma are somehow connected to music, actually. The music on the TV in the living room during holidays, listening to you do piano lessons while we laid on your big comfy bed, coming over on Fridays, hearing the piano through the windows as we walked up the front stairs. Heart of the Valley and the way you and Grandma supported me singing and prioritized being there for all of my concerts. You and Grandma have always been a loving force in my life when I felt disconnected from the rest of my family, and I can't thank you enough for your support and unconditional love. The way that both of you have always gone the extra mile to make not just your family, but everyone around you feel welcome and loved is something that has rubbed off on me and I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I hope you're proud of the life that you have led and the impact that you've had on people, because the way that you've lived is certainly something to be proud of. This might sound weird coming from your 18-year-old granddaughter, but I'm so impressed by you, and I'm proud to call you my grandpa. I'll never forget when you came into town for my graduation. We'd gone to Starbucks for breakfast, and the dad of one of your former students approached us. He was like, "Mr. Nordyke, you made a massive difference in my kid's life. Our family wouldn't be the same today without your help. You turned my child's life around for the better," etc., etc. He went on for a while, and at the end, he asked you for a selfie. You obliged. And as he turned away, I noticed you had tears in your eyes. You and Grandma shared a warm look, Grandma looked so proud. I'm sure that interaction was one of many, and you've been hearing that from people your whole career, but the fact that you're so humble about the positive impact that you've had and still have on many people's lives is incredibly inspiring. I struggle to quantify the pain that I feel over your loss. I don't know what to say or how to process this, and I hope that anything I've said in this letter doesn't rub off in any other way than being incredibly grateful for the impact you've had on my life. I feel so sad that I won't hear you play the piano at Christmas again. I'm gonna miss you playing piano so much. When I think of my childhood, I associate it with you playing the piano. I'll miss your geraniums and love of gardening. I'm gonna miss arguing about politics while we drive to Target. I'm gonna miss picking out an ornament with you and Grandma every Christmas. Holidays spent with pumpkin pie and a heaping amount of whipped cream. I'll miss family Farkle games and goofing around at the dinner table. Your steak and salmon. I'll really, really miss that. I'll miss your tight hugs, and I'll miss the quiet thoughtfulness that you bring to conversation and your strength and determination to do things that are hard. I hesitate to finish writing this letter. I could keep adding to it for months, but as time is sort of the essence, I needed you to know at least all that's been said. I'll never forget the opportunities and adventures that you and Grandma have given me. You helped shape me into the person I am today, and I'm so lucky to have you in my life. With so much love, Lily.
Great job. Was there anyone else who would like to come up and share? We want to make sure you have an opportunity to do that. If not, of course, you'll be able to do that at the reception. If you'd come and introduce yourself, and then feel free to share.
I am Bob Johnson. I am Christopher Johnson's second father. I am glad to be able to come up and say, I think it's important to know what an impact Doug had on parents and families. I see a number of kids that were with Christopher and their parents, and I know we experienced the same thing. I wrote Gloria earlier this week and said, I remember in 1992, there was a little boy who went up to the classroom, and he got scared before he entered the room and ran away, and his mom had to go find him. And she brought him back to the room, and there was his teacher who brought him in. And he entered this room of magic. How many classrooms have lofts and beanbags, pianos? How many times are you going to have a bubblegum blowing contest and be in all these musical productions? And it just grew from there. That little boy went home that day, and he walked up the stairs and collapsed in our living room and fell asleep before he could even get into the kitchen. And from there, every day since, in elementary school from grades 1 to 5, he was excited to go to school. And that was Christopher Johnson who spoke earlier. I also think part of the magic was how Doug engaged parents and how we were involved and how he appreciated that. I have to say that my wife is the biggest expert on Lewis and Clark there is in the state of Oregon. The Oregon Trail and the ability to make dioramas and storyboards is astounding. And I give Doug the credit for that. But I also give him the credit for creating an environment where families got to know each other. They got to care about each other. They got to have a major influence in their kids' lives. And I did not experience that often with all my children. So I thank Doug for that, and I know it was very meaningful for all of us. So part of what I wanted to say before I go is just a big thank you to Doug. You know, thank you for being a great teacher. And he was so much more. Thank you for being a mentor, a guide, a person who set a standard that every student and every parent wanted to strive to achieve. Thank you for loving our children.
Thank you, Bob. I couldn't help but notice there's a bit of a height disparity between you and Chris. Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. Anyone else? Let's be sure, I don't want to cut anybody off, but let's be sure to be brief. There's a bit more for the service yet to come.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on up.
My name is Malia Brandt, formerly Malia Thomas. I came to this church in probably 1982. My first friends in this church were the Nordykes. And Doug and Gloria were part of that, but also Beverly and Brian became my dear friends and became family. And all along, as I watched Doug teaching other kids, I didn't have any to that point yet, but I knew I would, and I knew who I was requesting. So when my daughter was in kindergarten, of course I requested Doug as a teacher. Who else? And we were blessed not only to see him every Sunday play this piano for many years. I took, and I've always taken Christ's love and everything through music. Hits me more. Music just hits me more than anything, you know. So he always blessed me with his music every Sunday. But then my daughter, Stephanie, became blessed with going to first grade in Mr. Nordyke's classroom. Little did we know, the classroom would change into the Ben Nor as we knew it, and became something extremely special that wasn't found anywhere else. You know, you took your kid to school every day and they were safe. They were in a welcoming place and a loving place between those two teachers that had a bond. She too, like Chris, and I know several others here, Nicole and several others from the class, walked through their doors first through 5th grade. What a blessing, because like I said, you never had to worry. And then, like Bob said, not only was it was a blessing, we never had to worry about our kids in that classroom. Well, we did. We had some worries throughout the years, kind of like, you know, like carpeted bathtubs became, at one time we had an issue, didn't we, Gloria? Do you remember that little issue we had? It went on for several weeks. The head lice, what can I say? He had couches and lounge chairs and bunk beds and carpeted bathtub, and some people thought that was a little odd. We thought that's just the way school is. So we had to do some modifying with that and tape it all up and wrap it all up, and we all went back to school again. But the trips and the trust that us parents had and how those trips were handled. There were, like Chris said, there was Kanita. There was one that was at Mount Hood. We stayed in cabins somewhere in Mount Hood. There was Fort Stevens. We did go to Nye Beach, but I don't think that was an overnight one. Where else did we stay over? Oh, Fort Stevens. I don't remember. There was like 4 trips. I'm missing one. But they were trips that were so organized, and the parents, we all went. I mean, it was fun. And he was involved, and everybody was safe, and it was organized. And what a better feeling to have than to send your kids to school for that many years and never, ever have to worry about them. You know, that was a blessing. We just never had to worry about what was being said in class. Now, I had a son that just happened to be at the same school. I had to worry. He gave me the worry and the, you know, various teachers, but I never had to worry once with Doug. And he, like I said, we had him Monday through Friday, then we saw him on Sunday, and it was a blessing. My daughter went through a couple surgeries, and we were blessed that she would be absent from school, but she'd be at the hospital, and Gloria would be holding her hand, getting tubes put in her ears. But we, you know, we always had a Nordyke with us there to protect us and protect her, and I'm forever grateful. I worked in the school district after that, and I didn't see many classes like that. Even when I was teaching and working, I just didn't see that. And to feel the kind of love he had for these kids was amazing, and his kids. So I want to thank you, family, putting up with us at your house. We tore apart your house many years in a row. Sorry. But thank you very much, and it'll be a memory forever. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I know once we start, the ball gets rolling and we all have memories. I'm going to encourage you to hang on to those. Be sure to write those down. And please plan to share some of those at the reception following. At this time, the family has arranged some photos and memories to share with us, so please watch.
Hi, Jason. It's Grandpa. I hope you have a fun day. Adios.
Big smile.
I didn't do that. You did it. Okay. Oh!
You just gave it to her.
I know.
Come on, Dice. Be nice.
One! I saw 2 ones. Yeah, 1 and 2.
Puking and vomiting.
Puking, peeing, and vomiting.
Puking. Ladies.
Puking ladies.
Ladies. What are you doing here?
Final word. May God continue to bless this union, and may the sun bring you new energy by day, and may the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries, and may you live the rest of your life in true happiness. Doug and Gloria, having witnessed your vow of affirmation by the authority of love itself, in the presence of your loving family, I do affirm that you have expressed your desire to continue to be husband and wife. Continue to live, love in peace. Whom God joined together, let no man set asunder. Once more, I present you as husband and wife.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to just did that grace appear. The hour I first believed, my chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine, but God who called me here below will be forever mine.
Thank you, Chris. Beautiful song, a beautiful message. When our chains are gone. You know, many times when we get together with loved ones who have gone through grief, bereavement, it's hard to know just the right words to say and the right things to do, and we think, oh, I could do more harm than good, and it's kind of like chains that Chris was thinking about. And this morning, or this afternoon, the family has asked that we get a little bit practical, and I want to share just a few, 4 points exactly, on how to handle grief well, and how to help other people handle that grief well. You remember the scripture that I shared at the beginning of my talk this afternoon, 2 Corinthians chapter 1, where Paul says that the God is a God of all comfort, and He comforts us in all of our troubles, that we may comfort other people. Here's the first key. Understand the grieving process. A little over 50 years ago, a young psychiatrist came up with the 5 stages of grief. She came up with denial and anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And even though these have been established, there really is no right or wrong way to grieve. There's really no time element in all of these. You can have emotions that go through like a roller coaster, up and down and up and down. And sometimes those emotions can be given to the people that are trying to help the situation, like anger, frustration, depression. But if we understand the grieving process, it can help those that we're trying to help and help ourselves as we grieve. Number two, know what to say to someone who is grieving. More important than knowing what to say is knowing when to listen. Listening to those who are grieving. Get them to talk. Ask them specific questions about what are you feeling right now? And sometimes they just don't feel like talking at all, and it's okay just to sit in silence. Periodically check in with them. There's some things that we don't want to say when we're counseling somebody or coming alongside somebody who's grieving. There's several platitudes that are easy to come up with, like, oh, it's all for good. There's a reason for this. It's all in God's plan. And you may believe that, but the person that you're counseling may not necessarily believe that. You need to be sensitive to that. Sometimes we say, just think about all that you have to be thankful for. Well, yeah, we have a lot to be thankful for, but maybe now is not the right time to be thinking about that when they're going through that grieving process. It may come a little bit later, but not right in there. Or sometimes we say, man, you've been grieving a long time. It's time to move on. These platitudes, we want to be very, very sensitive about that. Key number 3 is offer practical help. Like, hey, I'm going to the store this afternoon. Can I pick some things at the grocery store for you? Can I mow your lawn? Can I help you with the laundry? Can I vacuum your house for you? Some practical things that we can do. Many times, the people that we are coming alongside are so overridden with grief, frustration, and depression that they don't even have the energy to pick up that phone and say, hey, I need some help. Those are the times we need to come up and say, how can I help you? And be specific. Just don't say, hey, if you need anything, I'm here to help you. But offer specific help. My brother-in-law's wife passed on just 3 months ago. He lives just 15 minutes from our house, and I make it a point every week to give him a call and say, hey, I'm going fishing tomorrow. You want to come along with me? Or we're thinking of going out to dinner. You want to join us? Or let's get the family together, at least weekly. Real practical help. Maybe they have another favorite activity they like to do. Let's go walk the dogs, or let's go take a walk, or let's just do some fun things together that they like to do. The 4th key is to provide ongoing support. You know, after the funeral is over and people have said their goodbyes, and things start really settling in, and Gloria's going to be going home to an empty house. And we're going to be missing Doug immensely, not just this week, but weeks down the road, months down the road, years down the road. When you have prolonged support, that's a key to help them. Giving them phone calls, cards, especially on those holidays, those firsts, the first Christmas that he's not here, the first anniversary, the first birthday. That prolonged help can really help. So more than ever, our loved ones need our support. They need our understanding. They don't need us to give them advice. They just need a listening ear. The most important thing is just to be there. It's your continued support and caring, your presence, that can begin a healing work in their life. And God instructed us to do that, to comfort others. But we really can't comfort others completely unless we have the comfort of God in ourselves. And I don't know what you've been through in your past, but you may not be experiencing that comfort right now. There could be a hurt in your life. Maybe somebody has hurt you. Somebody special in your life has hurt you. A relationship. Maybe a church has hurt you. Maybe some of you sitting here this morning thinking, God has hurt me. But I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that God loves you immensely. And He is the God of all comfort. He's a compassionate God, and He longs to comfort you. Doug knew that. Doug knows that more than ever right now. He is experiencing more comfort than we could ever dream. So will you today choose to receive the comfort from God, that you may in turn go and comfort others?
Doug and I share a birthday. Same birthday, just about 7 years apart, I think, but same day. And I think that means I have one more day every year now to feel his loss. The loss and the longing that you and I feel in our hearts means that we've been touched in myriad ways by Doug. His kindness, his laughter, his life, and his love. And you shared that in personal ways with Doug. Of course, all of us were touched by his music, which was far more than the science of sound on a piano. It came from an immensely creative and caring place in his soul. To listen to him was a spiritual experience. And that made sense because Doug was and is a spiritual man. There was hope in his heart that not only drove the depth of his artistry, but drove the decisions and direction of his life, even in the face of death. He could be dealing with the deepest sadness or disappointment in life or in others, but at the keyboard, the depth of his spirit spilled out in ways that touched our souls. His music did not define him. His music was an expression of him. And like Doug himself, his music was filled with hope. Whether it was a quietly melancholic ballad or a joyous crescendo of victory, that was Doug's life and faith. There are a lot of places to look for to find help in times like these. For Doug, and I know for many of us, our faith is one of those places, maybe the place. Both Doug's music and his life pointed us to something beyond this life, something more beautiful. He held out hope for us that there was a deeper life that could not be touched even by cancer or even death. A deeper life rooted in love. Love for each other, love whose source is found in God himself. Doug loved the Bible. And it tells us that God is love, demonstrated supremely through the life of his Son. And because that love is eternal, we're told in the Bible that yes, we grieve. And I'm so thankful for Mark's advice and encouragement. Yes, we grieve, but not like those with no hope. There is hope that this world and this life are not the last word. This is what it says. And now, dear friends, I want you to know what happens to a Christian when he dies, so that when it happens, you will not be full of sorrow as those who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and then came back to life again, we can also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him all the Christians who have died. I can tell you this directly from the Lord, Paul says. that we who are still living when the Lord returns will not rise to meet him ahead of those who are in their graves. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a mighty shout and the soul-stirring cry of the archangel and the great trumpet call of God. And the believers who are dead will be the first to rise to meet the Lord. And then we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air and remain with him forever. So comfort and encourage each other with this news. This was Doug's encouragement and hope. We all know that Doug played the piano beautifully, and that word just doesn't even seem to be big enough to describe it. But I'll tell you, there was one thing about Doug's playing that I really, really disliked. And I found it to be true with every piece of music that he played. The worst thing about listening to Doug play the piano was this: every piece eventually ended. And that was so disappointing. At least we could always look forward to him playing another one. He'd come to the end of a piece, and then he'd turn the page and there was more music. And I think we all feel that way about Doug's life, too. We hate that it ended. But we have the same hope that we will hear Doug play again. His life isn't over. It's only over here. Turn the page. There is more music to be played, music that never ends. And that music continues in our memory of Doug. It continues in the way that we love and comfort each other. And it continues ultimately in eternity in the love of God. At this time, Chris is coming again to sing a beautiful song in tribute to his dad.
I'm going to improvise. Thank you for everybody that shared. It's really fun to hear about my dad and other people's experience. And I just wanted to share just very briefly about my dad and I's relationship and our story, and that with the hope that maybe it inspires some of you to reconnect with your fathers, right, or your children. I lost a friend three years ago. His name was John Bergquist. And John was killed in a car accident. Somebody was texting and driving. There's a little PSA for you. Left behind his wife and children, and he and I hadn't met for probably 2 or 3 months. And it was one of those things where I'd been putting it off, right? I just was too busy. And something clicked in me when John died, and it really stirred up a desire for me to connect with my dad. In a way, sort of, I always wished I'd been connected with my dad, to show more affection with him, right, to hug him more. And I started doing things like reaching out to him, inviting him out for coffee. I invited him to my gym, got him to join the gym for a little while. He showed up to those early morning workouts, and you know, the things that I think I longed for when I was younger, right, I just reached a point where I'm like, you know, I'm going to reach out to him, and I'm going to try to really establish a different kind of connection with him. That was, 3 or 4 years ago, and my dad really responded. Yeah, I feel like he really responded in kind. And after the first few invites that I made, he started calling me up and wanting to chat. And we talked about everything over the last few years. I just kind of determined in myself, I wanted my dad to know me, all of me, and I wanted to know everything about my dad. And he really met me there. Lots and lots and lots of conversations, and it was really beautiful. And so, you know, like I was talking about earlier, people have asked me, how do you feel? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude to have known my dad, and in a really special way. And in many ways in the last few years, to really know him more as a peer and more as a friend. And so when we found out about his diagnosis, I don't know, a some moment subsequent to that, I heard this song by James Blunt. It's called Monsters. Some of you may have heard it on the radio before, but it really speaks to that place more of friendship, where there's like this point where you, and I didn't know that this could happen, where you kind of transition from father-son to just being men together. And it was really special to me. So I'm gonna play and sing it for you right now.
Before they turn off all the lights, I won't read you your wrongs or your rights. The time is gone. I tell you good night, close the door. I tell you I love you once more. The time is gone, so here it is. I'm not your son, you're not my father. We're just two grown men saying goodbye. No need to forgive, no need to forget. I know your mistakes and you know mine. And while you're sleeping, I'll try to make you proud. So Daddy, won't you just close your eyes? Don't be afraid. It's my turn to chase the monsters away. Oh, well, I'll read a story to you. Only difference is this one is true. The time is gone. I folded your clothes on the chair. I hope you sleep well, don't be scared. The time is gone, so here it is. I'm not your son, you're not my father. We're just two grown men saying goodbye. No need to forgive, no need to forget. I know your mistakes and you know mine. And while you're sleeping, I'll try to make you proud. So Daddy, won't you just close your eyes? Don't be afraid. It's my turn to chase the monsters away. Sleep a lifetime, yes, and breathe the last word. You can feel my hand on your own. I will be the last one, so I'll leave the light on. Let there be no darkness in your heart. I'm not your son, you're not my father. We're just two grown men saying goodbye. No need to forgive, no need to forget. I know your mistakes and you know mine. And while you're sleeping, I'll try to make you proud. So Daddy, won't you just close your eyes? Don't be afraid. It's my turn to chase the monsters away.
Thank you, Chris. What a message. Let's stand together as we sing our final song. You've been sitting for a while. Let the words of this song plant themselves deep in your heart.
On behalf of the family, I want to thank you again for coming. I want to remind you that there is a gathering in the basement immediately upon our dismissal, so you are encouraged to stay and share stories. Before we dismiss, go ahead.
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
So on a really fun, happy note, that song is something, isn't it? So, you know, part of my dad's legacy, as you heard, is just creating really amazing experiences in his classroom. And I think all of us are aware that there isn't a whole lot of money in the school district to go around for that kind of stuff. And my dad spent a lot of his own money buying supplies and you know, bringing things to the classroom and stuff like that. And so we've set up a tribute. It's not technically a scholarship fund, but it's a tribute fund at Love Inc. here in Corvallis. And if you'd like to donate to that, what it's going to be used for is Love Inc. is going to distribute that to teachers to buy things for their classroom, to get things that they need, right, to help facilitate other teachers creating extraordinary experiences for their students as well. And so if you'd like to give to that, there's a little lockbox here right in this center aisle. You can just stuff cash or checks or anything that you want to do in there, and it's going to go straight to that. If you're writing a check, write it to the Mr. Nordyke Tribute, and they'll make sure that those funds are distributed for that purpose. It's a very trustworthy organization, and my dad was a big fan of them. They've often helped teachers with other fundraisers and projects and support. So if you'd like to do that, I think my dad would find that pretty fun. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I want to dismiss the family. Before I do, Gloria, would you turn around and just see all these folks that have come? These are the people that have come to remember with you. Please be sure to stop and say hello if you can. I'm going to let you guys make your way out if you don't mind. If I don't send them out now, they'll never get there, because I know you all want to talk to them and hug them and encourage them. So if you'll make your way out, and as you do, then the rest of us will be dismissed. Thank you again for coming. We're so grateful that you've taken the time like this. And as you've heard, please remember to reach out to them beyond today, in the days and weeks and months and even years to come. I know it will mean so much to them. God bless you. God be with you. You are dismissed.